Masid proudly presents the story of Captain Jesús Villamor, a Filipino pilot who bravely fought the Japanese Imperial Air Force during the start of World War II. Jesús Antonio Villamor was born on November 7, 1913 in Abra, Philippines. In his early 20s, he joined the Philippine Army Air Corps Flying School and after 3 weeks was chosen to go to the United States for advanced flight training. He finished what was meant to be a 4-year course in just 3 years, and upon graduation was assigned to the United States Air Force Strategic Bombing Squadron to fly B-17 bomber aircrafts. Right before the start of World War II, Captain Villamor returned to the Philippines and was reassigned to lead the 6th Pursuit Squadron, now called the 6th Tactical Fighter Squadron stationed in Batangas Field. On December 7, 1941, more than 300 Imperial Japanese aircrafts attacked Pearl Harbor in Hawaii in an attempt to prevent the U.S. Pacific Fleet from interfering in Southeast Asia. On December 8, in response to the attack on Pearl Harbor, Lieutenant General Douglas MacArthur was instructed by the U.S. War Department to launch airstrikes on Japanese military bases in Formosa, now known as Taiwan. 2 squadrons of B-17s at Clark Field, Pampanga were getting ready for its mission to Formosa when Nichols Field, headquarters of the U.S. Far East Air Force, received reports of incoming Japanese bombers. A warning was sent to Clark Field, but it was too late. All of the aircraft at Clark Field except for 1 or 2 B-17 bombers were destroyed. The bases at Clark and Iba Zambales took a heavy beating and could not be used. Just a day into the war, the Far East Air Force was already cut in half. The planes that survived were mostly damaged and needed repair. During the next few days, other military bases were hit as well. Camp Stotzenberg in Angeles, Pampanga, Camp John Hay in Baguio, Zablan Field in Camp Murphy, Fort McKinley, Nichols Field in Pasay, and the U.S. Navy Yard in Cavite. Despite the coordinated attacks, 1 fighter squadron remained operational, the Philippine Army Air Corps 6th Pursuit Squadron, located in Batangas Field. On December 10, 1941, the alarm sounded in Zablan Airfield. From their base in Batangas Field, the 6th Pursuit Squadron commanded by Captain Villamor, together with Lieutenants Godofredo Juliano, Jeronimo Aclan, Alberto Aranzazo, and Jose Gozar jumped into their pea shooters to intercept. Already, the Filipino airmen were at a huge disadvantage. Aside from being outnumbered, they were also flying outdated Boeing P-26 pea shooters, handed down by the US military. Armed with only one .50 caliber and one .30 caliber machine gun and reaching top speeds of 377 km per hour, this US monoplane was a fighter built for an older era. On the other hand, the Japanese pilots were flying what was regarded as the Empire's most famous aircraft, the Mitsubishi A6M2 Zero Sin. Armed with 2 7.7mm machine guns, 2 20mm cannons with high explosive ammunition, and with a top speed of 533 km per hour, the Zero was built to dominate the skies over the Pacific. With a flying range of 1,870 kilometers, there was virtually no corner of the Pacific this terror of the skies could not reach. But what made the Zero even more dangerous were the pilots who flew it. Known as the Tainan Kogun Kokutai, these flyers were seasoned aerial combat veterans of the Second Sino-Japanese War. They were highly publicized in the Japanese media for producing the most number of fighter aces. Among them were Hiroyoshi Nishizawa with 88 aerial victories, Saburo Sakai with 64, and Toshio Ota with 34, with the Japanese invaders having the advantages in number, performance, experience, and firepower. All odds were stacked against Villamor and the 6th Pursuit Squadron. But this didn't stop Villamor and the other Filipino pilots from defending the motherland. As soon as Villamor reached 5,000 feet, a Zero swung behind him with guns firing. He quickly dove into the Marikina Valley to escape, his P-26 almost hugging the ground. The Filipino airmen evaded trees, flew through gullies, and even swooped underneath high-tension power lines. Thankfully, he was able to break free from the attacking Zero. But just as he was about to climb back up, another Zero was hot on his tail. This time he was no match as the Japanese pilot was closing in on him. As the enemy was lining up to fire, Villamor maneuvered into a half-loop, plane standing on its tail, then dropped and snap-rolled into a reverse position. Both planes were now face-to-face. Villamor quickly pulled the trigger and hit the Zero's fuel tank. The tank ignited, and the Zero burst into flames. With little fuel remaining, the Filipino landed safely at Zablan Field. 2 days later, on December 12, 27 Japanese bombers escorted by 17 Japanese Zeros were spotted flying over Batangas Field en route to a planned air raid. Again, Captain Villamor with Lieutenant Cesar Basa, Godofredo Juliano, Jeronimo Aclan, Manuel Conde, and Antonio Mondigo took off on their pea shooters to intercept. Villamor climbed to altitude, firing short bursts at the Japanese bombers above. To his surprise, he saw smoke coming out from one of the bombers. It was Villamor's second hit. The Japanese bomber climbed and broke apart. Zeros quickly chased after the Filipinos. Basa tried to outmaneuver the enemy but was no match. Villamor saw chunks of Basa's monoplane break off, and the plane hit the ground. Later that day, Basa's body was found a few feet away from his wrecked plane, underneath his parachute riddled with bullets. Cesar Basa was the first Filipino pilot to die in aerial combat and was awarded the Silver Star for his sacrifice. 6 days later, on December 18, 1941, President Manuel Quezon, under Executive Order No. 386, declared the Philippine flag reversed with the red stripe above to indicate that the country was in the state of war. It was the first time since the Philippine-American War where the Philippine flag was flown inverted. By the end of December, overwhelmed by the Japanese assault, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Bax, the commanding officer of the Philippine Army Air Corps, ordered Captain Villamor to destroy all remaining aircraft and to withdraw with the rest in Bataan. Finding it hard to destroy his beloved 303 P-26 pea shooter, he asked a sergeant to blow up the aircraft for him. All remaining Philippine Army Air Corps pilots were turned into ground troops and joined the defense of Bataan that lasted 93 days. For his extraordinary heroism in aerial combat, Captain Villamor was conferred the Distinguished Service Cross by Douglas MacArthur, Field Marshal of the Philippine Army. And to honor its most famous pilot, the Philippine Air Force renamed the Nichols Air Base in Pasay City to Colonel Jesús Villamor Air Base, where the main headquarters of the Philippine Air Force is located today. Did you like our story? Comment below. If you have other heroic tales you want us to feature, let us know. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching and see you next time.